Are you AiR,
Hey,
Ravi?
I am the Atman in Ravi, which I kept writing. It became AiR. So
AiR.
people call me AiR.
Oh my God, this gentleman was the man who started Kemp's Corner. And I think at the peak of your own story, you sort of said, listen, there is much more to life than just accruing or taking from the world. You know, we often have a transactional relationship with the world, and you seem to have said, no, it's not about transactions.
We both are passionate about one thing. You are passionate about children, and I'm passionate about kids.
Yeah,
We both are passionate about it.
yes.
One day, my guru, my master, he asked me a question: are you just going to make money and more money and more money? Then I realized what we earn, others will burn. And then our life will be over.
Next what? What is the purpose of your life? This was the real turning point. So I went to Kiran, I went on a talash, a search, and I got the spark. I got the realization.
What is the worst thing we tell our children is abhi nahi. Abhi to bachcha hai. Abhi wait karo. And for 15 years we tell them to wait.
I talked to some kids in early college and things like that. They asked me, what's the purpose? I said, the purpose of life is to find a purpose. Otherwise, your life becomes a circus. And you become like a clown. You're just like a clown jumping up and down.
I don't think you need to go to school anymore if you think that the purpose of education is math, science, and English.
In school, we were taught HAPPY, that's the spelling. And I told them, I remained a fool because of what I was taught in school. Because happy to me is HAPPY.
With so much of what we learn, we need to get that, I get it. So thank you for sharing that simple way to tell such a large, beautiful, encompassing story. So
I would like to introduce Kiran Sethi. She is not just a teacher, she's a designer, an educational reformer, and a social entrepreneur. She ran her own graphic design firm for a decade. Then, as life moves on, she transformed. She moved into education, which she thought was more meaningful, and she founded the Riverside School in Ahmedabad, India. She was awarded several awards. I don't have all of them, but one is the Ashoka Fellow in 2008. In 2009, Stanford awarded her the Call to Conscience Award. So therefore, she has so many awards, and not just the awards. She is a person who transforms life. She launched something called Design for Change, which uses a 4-step method, which I found very interesting. She calls it FIDS for kids. I think she called it FIDS for kids. Kids should feel, imagine, do, and share. And she inspired, not motivated, but inspired children with the mindset, I can. That every child is capable of miracles, of excellence, of outstanding performance. So that is a short but very interesting and challenging introduction to Kiran, because not everybody can be Kiran Sethi. And I hope looking forward to an interesting conversation. So Kiran, would you like to say a few words before we start?
firstly, how do I address you? Are you AiR, Ravi,
Hey, so
Atman?
just Ravi is no more. I was Ravi for 46 years, and
I understand.
I realized Ravi is just a name, so I'm not Ravi. I am the Atma in Ravi, which I kept writing. It became AiR. So
AiR.
people call me. Yes, people call me. It's easy to say. AiR is in the air, so that's what people say. AiR.
Lovely. And I mean, like I said, just before we started, when I did a little bit of background on you, I remember thinking, oh my God, this gentleman was the man who started Kemp's Corner. And that, in many ways, was quite a game changer by itself. I'm a Bangalore girl, born and brought up in Bangalore, went to the Bishop Cotton Girls' School, and then,
Wow.
yeah, and Mount Carmel for a brief period. But I think my whole journey of just whatever I've become has come through children. I remember I had no plans of being a change maker or whatever, but my whole world changed when I became a mother. And my entire journey of finding passion and then purpose. Passion I always had, right from the beginning. And I was quite a person who presented and was present in every moment. But the purpose was really kind of super sort of interesting, which I found with my children. And subsequently, of course, everything that happened from there. But I'm actually quite intrigued by you and having had all of that background of so I mean, people typically think about success through money and achievements, and all of those things. And I think at the peak of your own story, you sort of said, listen, there is much more to life than just accruing or taking from the world. We often have a transactional relationship with the world, and you seem to have said, no, it's not about transactions. It's about people. So I'm curious to know, what was it, a particular moment, because there often is in people's lives. Was that one moment you often go back to and saying that was like the sort of, pivot?
Yeah. Actually, there were two moments like this, but I just realized as you started speaking that we both are passionate about one thing. You are passionate about children, and I'm passionate about kids. So we both
Yeah,
we both are passionate
that's our
about it.
connection. Yes.
Yeah. So because for me, when I started my life when I was 16, 18, I opened an ad agency. And as I opened that ad agency, I realized that my parents wanted me to get into the family business, which was kids. And we opened Kids Camp and Camp Fort. So as I made success after success, Kiran, we all achieve success. You've done it, I've done it. But I realized that life has three peaks. I realized that most people get stuck on the first peak. 80% get stuck on the peak called achievement. Because even kids, I think you don't teach the kids, but kids are all taught success, money, name, fame. Kids are they're brainwashed, sorry to use the term, that only achievement is success. So when I did that, I made billions. I made huge success stories, which is, you were a Bangalore person. So, and we reached out people from all over the world. I was covered by BBC, by Wall Street Journal. Before modern retailing hit India, I became very popular. But then one day,
social media, correct.
Yeah. Before one day, my guru, my master, he asked me a question. I was 40. And at 40, he asked me the question, are you just going to make money and more money and more money? Then I realized what we earn, others will burn. And then our life will be over. Kiran, we all have to realize that a human being cannot live over 100 years. The lifespan, the expectancy may be 70 in India, 90 in Japan. So while I was flourishing in that kids business, I opened 50 toy shops all over India to try to make kids get Mickey Mouse and things like that. And today I've gone exactly to the other side of the spectrum. Because I brought fantasy to India. I brought the first cartoon characters, and I brought the magic of Las Vegas and Disneyland to India. And kids, like you said, even your kids are fascinated by that brand. But Kiran, what interests me and you, and what you said was a turning point when I shut my business at 40, because I realized I had fulfilled my need. Now we all need to fulfill our need. We need roti, kapda, makan. We need basics. The problem is when we have greed, because greed cannot be fulfilled. I bought a Mercedes car, I bought a limousine, and I was just thinking of buying my private jet. When the question came to me, those who have a private jet, my friends in the YPO circle and things like that, they are not satisfied. They want to buy a jumbo. They want to buy a bigger plane, a bigger yacht. So this was the turning point. One, my master guiding me to shut my business. Then I traveled to 125 countries trying to discover life and what God has made. But still, when I showed my guru one day, I'm playing with the penguins in Antarctica, he told me, next what? What is the purpose of your life? This was the real turning point. So Kiran, I went on a talash, a search, and I got the spark. I got the realization that I am not Ravi. I am the Atma in Ravi. But that's another conversation. I mean, that will take another. Today, what I thought, since you're passionate about kids, and I also started with kids, and I want to touch finally the purpose that I have achieved. So I want to ask you, see, children, they are caught in what I called mythology, fairy tales. Children are taught so many lies. For example, we as children, we as adults teach children Santa Claus. But children grow up above Santa. They know when they grow big, they become the Santa Claus for their children, and then they know that Santa Claus is just a fairy tale. But unless children, like you said, FIDS for kids, I want to pick your mind, pick your intelligence on this subject. If a child grows up thinking that Mickey Mouse is real, if they really think there's a guy called Mickey Mouse, they don't understand that it's just a costume. So, Kiran, I realized when I became a big kid at 46, when I was 46-year-old kid, when I realized this Ravi, this guy, he's a costume. Because I have to leave this costume and go. I don't know where you come in this path of how much you relate to this.
Yeah.
But my whole concept of asking you, and I'm handing over to you now, should children continue to believe the myth? Should they continue to believe the lies that God lives in the skies? They are told God is an old man with a long white beard, no, Upperwala, that type of thing. Or should we, since you're in the transformation of kids, should we not create? As I was walking to you, I was thinking, Kiran has created FIDS for kids. So why should we not do SIDS for kids? So I'm good in these acronyms. So I said, what is FIDS? SIDS. I said, spirituality, which leads us to intellectual discrimination and self-realization. So I said, we should have a program called SIDS for kids, because kids grow up and they get caught in this world. They're running a race. So Kiran, over to you. What do you feel about this myth that children, they believe in ghosts and devils? I know you've taught them to be strong and bold, but children are taught, oh, there's a devil, be careful. There's no devil. In this world, there's nothing called devil and ghost. Why are we creating fear? Why are we creating ignorance? So this is my first, sorry, it was a very long question, but over to you.
Thank you for that. There's something that I have kind of learned from children in these 25 years. And I've often commented on that on the first 2 years of a child's life on the planet, I mean, anywhere on the planet, they bring with them this sense of agency, right? They go from crawling, sitting, laughing, thinking, talking, and saying, look at me, mama, I can. And then we send them to school. And for 15 years, we teach them, like you said, sometimes lies, right? And we could teach them agency. And the beautiful thing with children is that they have this great discerning power. And while children might not always listen to you, they will always imitate you. That is the one thing I have understood from children. Absolutely. Right? And that understanding of imitating means that you have to be worthy to be in front of children. Not everybody should be in front of children. Not everybody needs to be in front of children. Not everybody should have children, right? Everybody can, but they shouldn't. But the power of this idea that children, just like they can learn to love, they can learn to hate. We actually teach them these. Similar, these stories, whether it's Santa Claus or God or whatever, are taught stories. It doesn't come from within. They're taught, right? And they often, they will pick up these stories which are repeated. Again, you have to repeat stories for children to file it into their imagination or into their psyche. So what are we repeatedly telling them? Tu bachcha hai. Abhi bada hoke tu change maker banega. Abhi nahi. You are the future. Not now. Wait. And for 15 years, we defer this promise for children saying, Abhi nahi. I'm not even talking about the myths and fairy tales. That's still, when you're older, you might have discretion to discount it. But what is the worst thing we tell our children is, Abhi nahi. Abhi to bachcha hai. Abhi wait karo. And for 15 years, we tell them to wait. And then we're surprised that, oh my God, children are, are not changing the world. They don't have agency. They don't have that power of empathy. But for 15 years, we told them, Abhi nahi. So for me, that's the greater sort of urgency that we need to have with our children. And I think when I started the Riverside School, it really came from that encounter with my son. When my son went to school, he was 5 years old. And I remember him coming back and very easily at that time saying, no, mama, I can't, teacher told me. And in that simple sentence, he had taken his agency and handed it over. He said, no, I can't. And I think for me, that was just not good enough, right? And for me, like you said, like when you're talking about spirituality, for me, I have my often when you say guru, I don't necessarily have a guru, but I have inspiration that comes from different counters. And I remember Gandhiji once said, "You are who you've been waiting for." Right? The world is not going to come and change you. And I think in that idea to start this conversation with children, to start Riverside, came from that deep desire to say, how can we just get our children into the planet and then kind of say, abhi nahi. Tu chota hai, tu ladki hai, tu ye hai, tu wo hai. We keep, giving them these repeated stories. Forget Santa and Mickey Mouse. These are the easy ones. They frankly don't bother me at all. It is the other stories of helplessness that we tell our children. That for me is a greater disservice that we do. And I think over the years, Fits for Kids became an opportunity to put that magic formula into children to say that you don't have to be 18 to look at the world and play your part and not be just a recipient, but you can you can be a custodian for change. And I think for me, that was super, super important. So I over the years, I've realized that the stories we repeat are the stories we often believe, right? And the repetition has to be, we can. And there must be a kinder, more just world. And I think that is the only reason to educate. So for me, that's the bigger story, yeah.
No, so that is fantastic. So what you're saying, I took it for granted that is not what I'm saying we should not do. 100%, unless we build in children courage, confidence, the I can. When I was a kid, I used the word I can, and I said, I can imagine, commit, affirm, and never give up. I know that you must have heard this acronym of it. I can to me was imagine, commit, affirm, and never give up. So I think what you're doing is fantastic in terms of getting children into this I can attitude. They're becoming courageous. They're abhi, developing that sense of urgency. Damn good. But Kiran, what I'm asking you, as kids grow up today, are they being taught to question everything? When you're not just in your school, I'm talking about children of the world.
Yeah,
of course, you can make a transformation to those few 100,000, I don't know how many children that you educate every year that pass out of your school. Obviously, it's every year the number of children that leave and go into the world are what we can transform. But when they go into this world, everybody's getting into a rat race. Everybody's trying to achieve because they are taught success is equal to happiness. But is it true? Do you think? Okay, let me ask you a different question in that sense. Is only success happiness from your life? Do you think that more money, more success, more wealth is equal to happiness?
Asking me on a personal basis or just as an understanding of what success and the definition
as an educator. As an educator.
I think the definition of success earlier on, many, many years ago, I remember when I was in school, was marks. Okay, it was great. It was equated to the number of marks you would get. Subsequently, that would mean that you would get into a college and then you would get a job. It was a fairly linear idea of success. It very simple. I think so much has changed. And I think just my own understanding has changed. The reading has changed to say that the most successful people are the ones who have the best relationships and purpose in life, right? That's really at the heart. In fact, there was this wonderful study, a longitudinal study that was done by Harvard called the Grant Study, and it kind of tracked graduates from Harvard over 75 years. 75 years. Imagine tracking that same batch over 75 years, and they kept finding out what were they doing in life and how were they performing, because it's Harvard, right? And you have to have success. And eventually it turned out that quality of relationships was really at the heart of their long-term feeling of accomplishment and well-being. Purpose was a big one, and having done something for another. Finally, we all know it internally. It's not rocket science. None of this, what I'm saying, is rocket science. I don't think anybody in the world, not a single parent will say, "Nee, mera bacha should be a miserable human being." I don't think so. But the very fact that there is fear in understanding what society has defined as success is so different from what internally we know, right? The sense of accomplishment, the sense of well-being, the sense of purpose. Whilst we know it, we don't often give it the value that it needs in life. So our young children across the world are getting not only consumed now with social media and its definition of success. It's totally different. It's completely changed the game. and it can be extremely liberating and extremely intoxicating in both sides. So
Yeah,
we've got
yeah.
children who have got the amount of anxiety that is coming in young children now, because on social media, everybody and his uncle seems to be successful. It's not true. So social media has these little moments where I can put on a smile, take a picture, and then I'll be miserable the next moment. But we don't see
Yeah,
those stories. And
that's true.
imagine young children getting that communication. Forget this is now the danger of your Mickey Mouses and your Santa Clauses. This is
Yeah.
the bigger danger.
So what you
So
say is very, yeah, what you say, you said two important things. I don't know, did you finish this, your
well,
purpose and
so in many ways, just to answer the question, I think uh, we have to do a better job in getting our children to understand that their sense of well-being, their sense of purpose will really take them to a larger, more fulfilled life. And I think it's getting more challenging because of, like I said, the factors that work against children and childhood. But I think it is a grand, grand journey to be on.
beautiful. No, I liked what you said, and no doubt what you said that, two things very important. You said relationships.
Yes.
But today, Kiran, is it not sad that so many relationships are going down the drain? It was earlier we used to say, in America, 50% divorce. We used to say, like, oh, in America, now you're seeing it in India. You're seeing it in India where relationships, not all relationships are turning sour. But what is the cause of relationship turning sour? Second, you said purpose. People do not know that the purpose of life is to find the purpose of life. Unfortunately, I talked to some kids in early college and things like that. They asked me, what's the purpose? I said, the purpose of life is to find a purpose. Otherwise, your life becomes a circus and you become like a clown. You're just like a clown jumping up and down. So in my journey, Kiran, since I have reached, like you said, a point where I went through 25 years of success, I made a lot of money. I'm not saying that we should not make money, but ultimately we know the truth that if you are Ratan Tata, and when you say Tata, then you have to leave everything behind and go. You may have tens of thousands of crores and you may give all this money, not you don't give actually, it's taken away. But what I try to teach children is, who are you? Who are you in reality? When I say children, I'm talking about not just kids in school, but also in college, because they have been taught and they think, I want to become a tech guy, I want to become a biotech guy, and I want to earn this money, and they only think limited in terms of happiness is equal to money and success. Recently, a college bunch spoke to me and they asked me, how can I be happy? So I told them, it's college, not school, but college. And I asked them, how do you spell happy? And they said, they laughed and they said, Happy. I said, wrong. And they were taken aback. I said, try again. They said, in school, we were taught Happy. That's the spelling. And I told them, I remained a fool because of what I was taught in school. Because happy to me is Happy. If you want to understand happy, you must change the way you spell happy. Because happy is three P's. It is pleasure, it is peace, and it is purpose. You spoke about the word purpose. In life, I know people who have made a lot of money, Kiran, but they can't sleep in the night. There's so much stress. Don't tell me, I'm sure you know many such people who are having stress and anxiety. So I tell people how you can be happy is to evolve from not pleasure and money and success. I'm not teach children to be duds and don't. No, they must challenge themselves. The Upanishads, many centuries ago, they go through, I don't know if you're familiar with this, it's called Purushartha. Purushartha means, what is Purush? Man's Artha, purpose. Purushartha. And the Purushartha is Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. So they teach children that Dharma means righteousness. You must learn good values, good ethics, confidence, courage, I can, all that. But after that, Kiran, after you learn, what do? After you learn, you must earn. Because if you learn, you have to earn. You did it. I did it. We all went to school. You went to Bishop Cotton's. I was your neighbor in St. Joseph's. I was just there. So we all learn, but then we earn. But we don't do anything beyond. We burn and we return. So my education has taken a kind of a tangent. So the education that you're giving, with all due respect, I'm in awe. I'm completely impressed, and the reason this conversation I want to have with you is to leave with you some thoughts. Like I said, from FIDS to kids. Also, is there something called SIDS that I should contemplate? How can I teach children how to overcome, for example, fear, worry, stress, anxiety, regret, shame, and guilt? Every human being experiences. How do you deal with anger, hate, revenge, jealousy, pride, greed, and selfishness? Now, these things, unfortunately, are not in our syllabus. And when I went on a quest, on a talash, I always thought the mind is king. Hey, my mind, my mind, my mind. And then I went to find there is the mind. And where is the mind? I could not find. What is the size of the mind? What is the color of the mind? What shape of the mind? But it appears to exist. We always talk of our mind. So I'm saying, in addition to teaching children, should we not add on a chapter to understand? Ramana Maharishi, he said the word Nana Yar. I don't know if you know Tamil. Nana Yar means who am I? So Ramana Maharishi asked this. And Ramana Maharishi told you, when kids used to go to Ramana Maharishi, once a kid went to Ramana Maharishi and told him, Swami, young adult, Swami, I want God. I want God. So he smiled. So the next day, the child again asked the same question. So what did Ramana do? Ramana just did this. And later, when the child could speak, he told Bhagwan, used to call him Bhagwan, you cheated me, na? I asked you for God. And you just did this. So Ramana said, yes, I showed you God. He said, no, you just showed me your fingers. And Ramana told him, you saw the fingers. But did you see the energy that's making these fingers move? What is this energy? What is the energy that's making these fingers move? If this energy leaves, can your fingers move? So there are people who have transformed the way, whether it was Adi Shankara or Vivekananda, I'm sure you've heard these names, Ramakrishna Paramahansa, or for that matter, Ramana. Kiran, they call this self-realization. So I don't know what you would like to. I know that I'm picking on you on a different subject, but the reason is this. How can we get kids to go beyond traditional education and say, first, I can? So that is, I'm completely with you. We must teach kids that they can. And when kids tell me sky is the limit, I tell them sky is not the limit. When they tell me sky is the limit, I tell them sky is not the limit. You can go beyond. So, Kiran, what do you think about getting children to start a journey of self-realization? I wrote a book, by the way. I hope they've not sent it to you. I'll send you a book. It's called Spirituality for Children.
Lovely.
I've written a book. So I'll immediately after this podcast, I'm going to make sure it reaches you.
Sure.
But what do you think about teaching children self-realization and the purpose of life? What do you think about this?
I absolutely believe that is fundamental. It's like, it's at the heart, it's the roots of the tree, right? It's at the heart of what keeps you going through all the storms. Life is going to throw you all these storms, and those roots of your self-awareness, your understanding of your values are going to make you, weather those storms. And I think we came back to that question. We said, no, relationships, and we talked a lot about relationships. I think the relationship with yourself is the first relationship you have to master, right? And somewhere I believe, and then I'm talking about at a school level, and I think at a larger level of just understanding the side of relationships. I was never taught that. I mean, I remember I went through school There was never a place or space for real. In fact, we had a moral science class, and that was pretty much it, right? To understand who you are, what is it that motivated you, what bothers you, what is your sense of self. I never had that experience at all. And I remember going to NIDA, my design college, and for the first time, understanding how important that idea and distinction of, and I keep saying this now with a lot more experience, but insan and insaniyat. I think that's at the heart of it. I think we are humans just because we're a species, but we become humane by choices we make. And those are what really defines who you are. How do you behave in a certain place? How do you work under pressure? Resilience and grit. What is love? What are relationships built on? And I think those conversations actually happened only when I was 17 and my design college, because so much of design is built on empathy, right? Understanding and get having love and removing assumptions and being kind. And I think these are important things we must learn. And like exactly what you said, I don't think this is the curriculum of schools. And believe you me, AiR, that I don't think you need to go to school anymore if you think that the purpose of education is math, science, and English. You can learn this completely by yourself now with Khan Academy and all these online platforms. I think the real education is about insaniyat. It's about self. It is about choices. It is about love and kindness and justice. I think this is the real curriculum. And I keep when I share with the work, of course, we do at Riverside. How do you meld these, and how does it become a combination? It has to be both. You have to teach content of character as much as content, but it's an interesting tension, because so much of it comes from home, so much of it comes from social media, so much of it comes from other factors that come in the way of this realization of self. And I think it's a never-ending journey. But those seeds must be planted in school. I absolutely agree with that. I think we have to plant those seeds. It must bear fruit. It must bear fruit.
And you're the educator, not me, because I believed that I was ignorant till I touched 48.
Yeah.
When I became 48, Kiran, I'm going to leave this with you and see how you can help this to be, because you're still an educator and you're still meeting thousands of children, which unfortunately I'm not able to do. But when I was 48, then I realized I'm not Ravi. It took me 48 years.
Yeah.
So what I wish, if children in school were asked the question, for example, children cut a cake on a birth date on the certificate, which is fake. Now, I would love, if I was a kid, if I was taught, Kiran, I wish my teacher told me that, my dear, you were not born on this day, because one day before and 1 week before, you were kicking in your mother's stomach. You were already alive. And so I started thinking, so I tell people, when we are conceived, can we change our mother? The moment we are conceived in our mother's womb, we can't change our mother. I went back to school at 46. I went back to school at 46 to ask myself, then who was I when I was conceived? I was just a zygote. We were taught in school, you and me were taught about zygote and embryo and fetus. We were taught this, but we were not taught to think. What were you when you were conceived? Then we are taught about death. We are all told there's something called death, somebody will die. But nobody teaches children what will happen after you die. Children are taught, okay, there's a big bang. And children believe there's a big bang. But how did this big bang happen? Somebody caused the big bang. What is the intelligence? Such a person like Kiran Sethi, so much intelligence in her to do design, graphic design, and then to create an education system, Riverside. There's so much intelligence. And a child also has so much intelligence. Where is this intelligence coming from? It's very funny. But let me, since you're an educator, this is what I learned, and I'm going to ask you to see whether this makes sense to you. So very often people ask me, where does the soul go after I die? So you know what I do, Kiran? I take a balloon and I blow a balloon and I blow another balloon. And I tell them there are two balloons. This is a blue balloon and a white balloon. Now I ask them this and this. Now I've let the air out, right? Now where did the air go? And they say, oh, where? The air, it merged with the air that is everywhere. I said, where did the soul go?
Everywhere.
The soul, huh? So Kiran, what I'm saying as an educator, I am, sorry to use the word, I'm throwing a challenge. I'm saying, Kiran, I want you, because you have transformed children's lives, and I do namaskar, I salute you for what you have done. But I think that FIDS is fantastic. But SIDS, I don't know, SIDS is just a word I got now. Spirituality, intellectual discrimination for self-realization. It came to me as I entered the door, because I realized that kids must be made to understand, sorry, who am I? Who am I and why am I here? You know, Kiran, many kids are afraid of death. They feel, oh, I will die. And kids don't know. So I tell kids, you will never die. The body will die. But you are the immortal soul. You will never die. That's why people will say that he passed away. Who passed away? It is the divine in you. And one more beautiful thing before I hand over to you to give your closing. You know, you said relationships. What is the problem in relationships? If spirituality, Kiran, will tell us today, don't you feel horrified when you see those shells in Israel and Gaza and Russia and Ukraine? We're not trying to say who's right or who's wrong or what. We're not getting into that aspect of it. But is it not horrifying to see what you said, insaniyat? Your word, you use the word insaniyat. But why there's no insaniyat? Why there's no humanity? Because children are not taught that I am not this body that will die. I am not the mind which I cannot find. The ego that says I is a big lie. I am the soul, and like these two balloons, your soul, Kiran, and my soul are SOUL, means a spark of unique life. SOUL. You have a spark of Kiran Sethi. I have a spark that's Atma, the Atma in Ravi. Ultimately, like two waves, they splash and they become the ocean. You and me will become one with that supreme energy, which science teaches us dark matter and dark energy. The whole universe, I'm sure this must be in your books, that the whole universe is full of dark matter, dark energy. But what is it? It is a supreme, immortal, intelligent power. SIP, it's a supreme, intelligent power, immortal power. And I learned this when I was a 48-year-old kid. And I feel sad. I hope you're getting my emotion where I'm coming from. I only wish, Kiran, if we could teach kids the essence of this. If we can start teaching, I don't know how to do it. You know, you're in the education system. How can we had a moral science class. Okay, we heard some good stories, and if we heard something about the church and about even in Bishop Cotton's, you must have, they teach you about our Father. We all said the prayer of our Father, thou art in heaven.
What in heaven?
But now, but I realized at 48, I realized that God lives in the temple of my heart. The Bible says it. In our schools, Luke 17 tells us that the kingdom of God is within. That God lives in the temple of our heart. The Upanishad says, Aham Brahmasmi, or Shivoham. So these are my humble submissions to you because I feel I was a kid till I was 48. I feel that I only graduated from the kindergarten of religion to the university of spirituality when I was 48 years old.
And that's really led to the transformation. How can, Kiran, because you're the one who can do it, you're the educator, how can we teach children that I will never die? I will never die. The body will die. How can we ask questions? You know what religion teaches us? Aisa mat bolo. Bhagwan naraz ho jayenge. God will be unhappy if you question. The result, Kiran, is this. When you realize you are the soul, I am a soul, then we see the divine in one and all. When you can see you see God in all. You love God in all. You serve God in all. You don't serve it because you are being kind and you're being compassionate from an egoistic point of view. No. You serve because I don't see a D-O-G. I see a G-O-D. So this is what we learn. We learn that a D-O-G in reality is a G-O-D. Dog can be a God.
All of what you're saying, how can we see God? Forget even if it's not even God, it's just love. The fact that there is love, and love is the common binding factor. And we think it's a great way to remove the sense of the other. It needs to be I keep saying it has to be a continuous conversation. This can't be a moral science class. I think what we have to understand is something like this isn't a moral science class like which we learned at school. It has to be the fundamental ethos of how everything is built on. So, thank you.
So I think we both have got quite the synergy in terms of our thought.
Oh, yeah.
And my excitement to talk to you is how you're going to design a program for children to change. There's a new transformation, because you're already teaching the children to say, I can, and to reach that state of confidence. But maybe today's conversation, if it has appealed to you, that maybe there's one more chapter to add in my education to children. And what you say, how can children love each other? Breaking religion, the divides of color, caste, creed, financial inequalities. Ultimately we are all souls. I'm sure in schools they use the word Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. It's there in the G20, it's there in the parliament, that the world is one family. The whole India uses this in G20 when they go to the world. But children must be taught it is because this body is a costume. This is not then what you said, the differences will dissolve. The difference will dissolve when we all realize in spirituality it's called Advaita, non-duality. When there is non-duality, then we reach that state of oneness. So Kiran, anything else you'd like to say before we conclude? It was great talking to you. You have any closing words?
No, I think this has been wonderful. I love that little simple demonstration of how the soul is by the balloons. I'm going to do that right away tomorrow with the kids. I think it just makes it so visible as to understand something as ephemeral as this idea, and to show it with a little demonstration. Just okay, I get it. And I think with so much of what we learn, we need to get it. I get it. So thank you for sharing that simple way to tell such a large, beautiful, encompassing story. So,
with all due respect, I have great respect and reverence for you. So I wish that this conversation would leave an impression, and we create a transformation for children to grow beyond what you have been teaching them. That and one more step towards realizing the truth of spirituality. Thank you so much, Kiran. Thank you for your time. Look forward to meeting you sometime.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for patiently listening to the video. And if you have questions, if you want to contact me, just WhatsApp me on 98451 55555. WhatsApp India 9198451 55555. But if you want to get answers to your questions, then come on Zoom, and the Zoom ID is on your screen. Every day at 8, you will find answers to all the difficult questions of life. See you there.